Hey everyone, this episode of Fall Obsession Podcast is brought to you guys in partnership with Hoot Camo, Bear River Archery, Tacticam Reveal, and the Outdoor Call Radio app. If you guys want to check out some discount codes that some of these partners have built specifically for our podcast listeners, you can go to the episode description on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Carbon TV, or wherever you prefer to listen, and you will find that code there for you guys to go save with these partners. Be sure that you guys are following the Fall Obsession Podcast show, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and give us a like on social media. We always appreciate you guys showing us that support. I'm your show host, Sam Thrash, and this week my guest is Eric Clark from the Okayest Hunter. Y'all will enjoy this episode. You're listening to another Fall Obsession Podcast.
The power lies within that middle ground.
Hunting transformed my life.
I think you have to be built somewhat different.
That Dale Brisby's a super puncher.
It's
Hey,
even
we need to get Pop-Tarts on the next Walmart order. I'm serious.
Because to come into this country and stay dedicated to that, it was pretty awesome.
If it's only for one, then you've done your job.
We have to do what's right for the wildlife, and that's our responsibility as hunters.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Well, welcome back everyone to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. We're live on YouTube once again, so if you guys are joining the live show, you guys are welcome to engage in the comment section. We always welcome that and encourage that. My guest this week is Eric Clark from Okayest Hunter. Welcome to Fall Obsession podcast, man.
Yeah, cool. It's good to be here.
Happy to have you, man.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out, man. It's cool.
Yeah, I been following you guys for a while and enjoy the brand, enjoy everything that you guys got going on and the subject matter at hand. So I've been excited for this one and I want to kick it off. And I've told you before we started recording, I don't like having, scripted shows or stuff that just feels, cliche and cut and dry. But to kick off our conversation, I just want to ask the simple question of, have you been a hunter your whole life?
Oh, that's a good question. I think mostly. I think as a young boy, I was just a dirtbag in the woods, building forts, getting poison ivy, collecting ticks. I had the fire marshals called on me several times for starting fires in the woods. Not because I was trying to burn down the forest. I was like building campsites that I thought were cool. I was like, well, campsite's not complete if you don't have a fire. I would track deer with my dad a lot at a lot of like public land, local areas that weren't huntable, but a lot of deer signs. So probably my whole life, yeah. I didn't technically get my hunter safety and start literally hunting until I was 16 or 17. It was after I had my driver's license. So late to the game from that perspective, but I've been chasing it the whole time.
Yeah, no, it's always interesting to talk to people about their journey and coming into it because I and you might as well with y'all's show, but I meet quite a bit of adult onset hunters in this world and everything, and so I'm always fascinated where people's journeys began because mine started, as far back as I can remember, hunting with my dad when I was a kid, and I think I shot my first deer when I was, 8 or so, something like that. So it's always been ingrained in me, but I'm always fascinated by other people's journey and kind of where that passion and everything began. But it's good to know that you started as a fire starter in the woods. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I knew my dad hunted, but I didn't think much of it. I wasn't very aware of it. I knew he was gone for a chunk of time every fall in the North Woods. And I don't know, I was just always drawn to it, just naturally drawn to it. I
yeah,
enjoyed watching whatever was on Saturday morning as a kid on the rabbit ears, whatever outdoor channels existed back then without cable. And I'd watch that stuff and I would look at all the Dunhams or whatever catalogs came in the mail, and I'd be looking at all the BB guns, drooling over that stuff. So yeah, I just am naturally have been always drawn to it.
that's awesome. I love to hear it. So, you are one of the members, one of the key guys, I would say, on the OKS Hunter platform and everything. And I know there's certainly undoubtedly some overlap in your listeners and our listeners, folks tuning into the show who probably
Yeah.
know who you guys are. For the listener that doesn't, though, what is the OKS Hunter?
It's a relief valve for ego in the hunting industry.
I love it.
I think that's probably the most distilled way I could say it. And though that relief valve is kind of widened and there's more folks kind of contributing to that, we were probably in my opinion, one of the earlier ones. There may have been folks before us, and I think I'm trying to think who it is. Service Side, is that? I'm trying to think if that's their name. I feel like they've been at it for a little while with a similar message. I was not aware of them until far after we had gotten into what we were doing, but we're like very overt about it, and we kind of use humor as our spear tip to soften that ego a little bit and then bring folks into like reminding them why we really do this.
Yeah.
And we actually had a guest on our show this earlier this week that had said like I definitely went through the ego phase, or like I was definitely fell victim to the ego stuff and chasing big deer, and not, I shouldn't say fell victim to, it makes it sound bad, but as a young male, like I think it just kind of comes with the territory. And I think not that you have to go through, but a number of hunters do go through that. It's a pretty long phase where you're like testing yourself, you're pushing the boundaries physically, you're really trying to see what you're made out of. And the best way to do that in the hunting realm, at least in the Midwest where I'm at, is by notching a tag with a mature buck because they're a hard animal to kill. They're a class of their own.
Yeah.
So if you do that, it can certainly have like a self-fulfilling prophecy of like, I'm a badass, I kill a deer, therefore the badassness is like, justified. Like I have to be to get this done. And if you do it, then you are. And it just kind of keeps going. And if you haven't had an opportunity to check yourself at some point, like you're gonna get humbled in a way that you're gonna realize that that's not the only thing that matters. It's just one sliver of a large pie of reasons why we hunt and why we're drawn to it.
Yeah.
Um, so no shade being tossed at anybody that's after mature bucks. I still am to a degree, but priorities shift in life. You might have a career. You might be trying to get some last hunts in with grandpa, or some out of state hunts, or a new weapon of choice. Maybe you're going to trad bow. There's a lot of factors that go into what make you a quote unquote badass hunter, and what's important to you. So as you kind of evolve through the stages of hunting, like you'll have different. There are stages. I think there's five of them that we kind of go through, but they're not necessarily chronological. You don't go through them in a certain order. You could jump around a little bit.
Yeah. Man, I like the way you put that, because that pursuit of chasing a big mature buck, right? That's every deer hunter's dream. It's every bow hunter's dream, right? We all, just it doesn't matter if you are a meat hunter. We all are sitting in our tree stands or whatever the case might be, and you can imagine that big buck walking through the timber. You can see it with your eyes, and you're playing it out in your mind. Oh, what if this happens? If this happens, I'm going to smoke him right there. We've all been there. We've all done that. But yeah, and I think that that's one thing with the Midwest. And this is coming from a guy who's from Texas who does not. I have not hunted out in Midwest whitetail in Midwestern states. Have not done that in my life. But speaking from a guy from Texas, you see all of this stuff on the hunting shows and TV and social media and YouTube now and everything, and you see these guys that are working hard at trying to kill those big deer in the Midwest. And so you associate big bucks with the Midwest. And it's really cool to have groups like y'all, I think, that really, in my opinion, dive deep into the intricacies and the realities of hunting out there. And it's relatable to everybody in every part of the country in their own way. It is what I would say. It's authentic. And that's something that I'm certainly observing. I feel like within the last several years, especially, is this push, this drive, this desire in the consumer to see a more authentic side of the hunting space and everything, and see people who are dishing out the content and everything, but in an authentic and relatable way. And I see you guys doing that for sure.
Yeah, authenticity just kind of runs through my veins. I think a lot of us these days have a pretty good meter for BS, and we can smell it a mile away. And yeah, somewhere along the lines, when there's a lot of gatekeepers and you had to pay for, network to get on a network of some sort, it was the Outdoor Channel, Sportsman's Channel, whatever it was, you had to like pay a lot of money, and they would use your show to put their ad sponsors on it. And then you had to go get your own to generate revenue to pay for the ability to be there. Now you can just rip YouTube however you can just go. There's no more, there's nothing in your way. And I think the pendulum will always swing. I think there was I don't know, when I kind of got into this a little over 10 years ago, there was like a desire for polish because hunting was so 80s. It was like lagging behind the modern world to a degree of like what you'd seen marketing from other brands. Like I remember the watch company MVMT as an example. I think it's Movement. I don't know if they're around anymore or not, but they look really cool, you know, and hunting was still this like 80s retro stuff. And that didn't feel cool at the time. Now the pendulum has swung, that stuff's coming back in, and some of the polish that entered the market back then to like catch it up to the rest of the world is now being like, we don't like that. We want to go back to just like a raw iPhone video because we don't need that level of polish. It's just quite interesting what the consumer seems to value, but authenticity, you can feel more authentic with something that's less produced, but also just be who you are. People have a hard time with that for social reasons. Like everyone's kind of putting on a facade. Like you go on a first date with someone, whether you're a guy or a girl, you go on with whoever you're going on a date with, and it's like everyone's dressed in their best clothes. They think they look good. They're going to a nice restaurant. They're ordering food that they're gonna make sure they're not messy about. And then you get back home and you put the sweats on and you start farting and you make nachos and you drip cheese on your freaking shirt because that's like real life stuff. But you gotta like wade your way into that stuff sometimes. We just went right to the nachos dripping cheese on our shirt right off the rip because like I don't have time to go on a date with the industry and show them the best side of myself because I don't know how to do that. I am who I am. So um yeah, the humor thing, it's just relatable stuff and it's relatable because I overshare. That's happening at scale now. Like there's a ton of people doing we're not like doing anything new anymore. Like we've kind of like leveled out a little bit. So I almost wonder if the pendulum's going to swing back to more refined stuff at some point. I'm just curious.
Man, I feel like it goes back and forth, and to piggyback off of what you're saying, like I remember, growing up watching the Monster Buck VHS tapes from the Realtree guys and all that kind of stuff. Like that was my dad and I's, that was our those were our hype videos basically, like in August and September to get us ready for hunting season. It seemed like we did that every year, but and it was a cool tradition, but looking back on it through the lens that I have now, it's like, okay, you saw the same guys from the same shows, the same companies every year doing the same thing and everything. And you talked about how things were kind of stuck they didn't really progress with the times. Well, that I think that was part of it, is this is just how these are the guys who essentially started, hunting, a form of hunting media or hunting shows at a time, and they progress and they maintain the same format. Nothing wrong with that, but it just, to me, it started feeling just like the same thing over and over again.
Print, recycle, repeat, cookie cutter, template, call
Yeah.
it whatever you want. It was like, man, this is boring. Hunting Public has done such a great job of just opening up the aperture on what really goes into it. And it's interesting because like hunting is like baseball. Like 99% is super freaking boring until something happens. Like I'll let you just
Yeah.
there for the peanuts in the tailgate. Like it's all, it's those moments of the heightened experience make it all worth it. But trying to film that stuff, like how are you gonna have a show where you only have squirrels in the tree and the wind blowing the leaves around? Like you got to be able to show the highlight reel. Well, then because that became interesting, that's all of what it was, and then that's all we were fed and had seen because of the gatekeepers. And then everyone just assumed like everyone should just be seeing deer all the time, and that's not reality. So we've gotten pretty good at showing reality. I think we have a show too, not just a podcast. We have like a seasonal episodic. We aren't putting a new episodic out this calendar year from our last season hunt. Just the sheer amount of capital it took to get that off the ground with a lack of return was like a hard pill to swallow that we had to like, we'll come back to it maybe if we ever recoup the ability
Yeah.
to afford something like that. Because we didn't have like partners funding it. We didn't like it was just we're just doing it. And it was fun to do, but we wanted it to be like The Office, but with deer hunting because we wanted it to be like 80% of the dumb stuff that might be the gag reel for someone else. We wanted that to be all of what we had done and maybe some like good big buck stuff or whatever. Uh, so yeah, we did that for a while and it's a grind, man. It's a grind. I don't know who has ever seen any of it. Like I have no concept of we got views on YouTube, but we weren't chasing that. We're just trying to share more about who we are and what we're about and all that stuff, and a way to bring people closer to us. We also do a lot of short form content, so people would complain like, you 30-second reel here, 15-second reel there, blah blah blah. I'm like, we have an hour and a half long podcast every week. We have this episodic that's, several 13 episodes for a season. Like we have other stuff too.
Well, and that's the attention span too. Like, and kind of tying everything together this far in this is that, you talked about that pendulum swinging and everything, and now I feel like we are like almost in between two phases because you talked about things going to the authentic side, and film it with your iPhone. Like I don't care, I just want it to be relatable, and then also chasing that flashy, stuff that is well done and well produced, and a high production quality behind it and everything. I feel like there's a fine line in being able to accomplish both of those, but then what you're also fighting is people's attention spans, because they're shorter than they've ever been before in today's day and age, especially with a newer, younger generation of hunters that are just, doom scrolling constantly. No, not trying to throw shade at anybody, but it's a reality in the world that we live in at this point. And it's, I feel like, you get people that like complain about the things that you just mentioned, and we get similar things. And it's like, no, you don't understand. We have all of this other stuff available that we're making available to the whole world, as far as, shows and podcasts and educational content and all this kind of stuff. But you want to watch the first 7 seconds of a reel and develop your own opinion about us at that point, or your own opinion about the production quality, or what we're even doing here in the first place. So I think that the intention spans also is something that we're having to fight through and go against at this point a little bit, and that's just a reality of the world that we're in today. So
Yeah, it's hard to escape. I think we're a little over digitized right now. And speaking of pendulum swinging, it seems like there's a macro pendulum swinging back to analog, like Polaroid pictures, corded phones, like sitting rooms without a TV, all of the analog things, writing on paper, um, seem like there's a trend going back that way. So this appetite to get away from a lot of that stuff. And that being said, attention span be damned. Like if something's good enough, people will watch it. People still go to the movie theater and watch a 3 hour Star Wars movie. Seek One is, I think, doing the best job of really highly produced cinematic quality storytelling
yeah,
in the hunting category. And the authenticity comes through in the character of the subject, like Lee, in most cases. He's authentic as a human, so that shines through and breaks over the over polish of the production. But there's very few that are doing anything at that caliber as a creator. Now, brands can do it because they have capital, they have money. Like Yeti can
right.
overproduce some shit. Sitka can do that. These big brands they have money to flex with. But the authenticity of them gets a little bit put in question to a degree because we know that it's coming from a place of commerce. Like they are trying to activate around a thing to get you to buy the thing. So Lee's a little bit different. He's got commerce too, but I think his ability to tell a story around chasing a deer is like a pretty high bar right now. Like I don't see a lot of others doing a good job. I think I've seen some dudes, some southern dudes called Creek Kings that were doing a really great job. Um, I think Hunting Public does a great job. It's not overly produced cinematically speaking, but the story part of it's really great, and they have a lot of good educational stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's a tough world. There's a lot of talent, a lot of grit and work ethic, and you mix those three things together, and like you can give it a shot and try, but unless you have a good story to tell or a strong brand to stand on or something unique, like it's going to be hard to stand out in all the noise of the doom scrolling. Like it's tough.
Well, yeah, that, and then the noise of the industry too, because, and I think you made a comment earlier along the lines of that there's a ton of people out there that are doing it or trying to do it now at this point in their own way, or you can pretty much search anything on Instagram and find something with the word outdoors on the end of the handle, and more power to them, man. Like I encourage everybody to go out there and put in the work and chase the dream if that's what they want to do. Even if it's not for, even if you're not trying to make a big splash, if you're just trying to share your experiences or to have them documented and shared in a format for your kids and your family down the line. Like that's a good thing about the technology in today's day and age is like, my son, for example, he'll be 8 next month and he's gonna like this year, if not this year, the next year will be his first year actually hunting. And I think about it all the time, like, man, he's gonna have his whole hunting life documented pretty much. It just because of, if anything, just because of this thing, if nothing
Yeah,
else.
real.
And that's something that generations have never had before. So I can't fault anybody for sharing, documenting or sharing their experiences or stuff like that. But yeah, it definitely, if you are trying to do something with it, something bigger and make a bigger splash in the outdoor world, um, yeah, you have to have a way to set yourself apart and be relatable and engaging to people. And that's the hard product to sell these days, it seems like. So
Yeah, yeah, it's important though that we remain authentic because there's ethics involved in hunting that doesn't
yes.
exist in other categories. Like we're not selling jewelry, like we're like we're killing a deer or a turkey or like we're, a large game elk, so forth. Like when you're taking a life, there's ethics involved that requires some level of respect that's maintained through being authentic. And if you're going to masquerade or be a poacher or like misrepresent, like that's a bad look for us, and the industry will turn on you like that, and they should. Like that, we
Yeah.
don't have any. It's a zero sum. There's zero tolerance for that stuff.
Yeah. No, it's there's a line that you have to walk in being able to represent the just our culture accordingly. And it's all out there on the internet. It's for everybody to see. So you have to walk that line. And we've seen people over the years that haven't and have lo lost a lot because of it and everything. And I think that the other part of that too is you have not just painting it in a good light because, as you said, you are killing an animal, but also showing everything else that comes with it. Also showing the stewardship that we have as hunters and that we take it upon ourselves to care for environments and habitats that these animals are a part of and everything. And that leads to a whole conversation in the conservation world that I don't know if we want to necessarily dive deep into here. I don't mind. Everybody knows I don't shy away from it on the show, but it's definitely there's an opportunity there to have influence over everyone in a whole nother way other than trying to convince them that it's okay and we're meant and we're put in this world, these animals are put in this world for us to harvest them and to put meat in our freezers and everything. And there's a whole nother level of outdoor experience and peace and just connection with the land and nature that comes with this, a whole nother level of responsibility aside from just hunting. So
Yeah, no, it's well said. And yeah, I'm happy to dive into any part. If I gets too deep in an area that I won't, that I'm not, comfortable, not necessarily comfortable, like knowledgeable, or feel confident that I have anything valuable to say, I'll just duck out from that point. I can't go that deep. I don't know that much. Yeah.
No, it's I've been on a conservation crusade lately, and obviously there's a lot of stuff happening out west and even at a national level that kind of steals the headlines. But on that note, and I'll ask you this, is what are some conservation issues perhaps in your state that might not really be highlighted to the masses or to hunters in other states or other regions and stuff like that that people might not be aware of, but you see an important issue at hand, being a resident.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time like getting too involved in stuff like that, just given the stage of life I'm in, being, dad of three and working a career and doing this on the side. Like I would love to sit on some boards and be more impactful or like directly impactful and like weighing in on things and being more plugged in. I just feel like I don't have the time. Like to go volunteer at my church more. I just not there. That being said, we did an episode recently about the Noel Nels or no, oh my gosh, my brain. Um, I think it's the Noel Nels Stewardship Program, which is a vehicle in which public lands are acquired through federal funding that come into the state. And those funds have acquired a lot of land that have been then allowed to be recreated on a lot for hunting purposes. That budget is being it's like one of the most successful programs we've had in our state to make sure we have our hunting heritage kind of secured for future generations. So nothing goes, anything that's already been secured with those dollars doesn't go away, but it prevents us from continuing that program going forth. And right now I think there's a bill that's being lobbied for on both sides, and it was bipartisan favored, like to keep it. And with it being in favor of bipartisan, it's still got like it's still likely to get voted out, which is frustrating because what do we have a voice for if our constituents aren't going to listen to us on
Yeah.
both sides of the fence?
Yeah.
It's some weird political stuff going on. It feels very frustrating to see something like that be on the chopping block. That's done so much good. We learned about that issue. We donate 1% of our revenue every year to Waukesha County Land Conservancy, which is a not-for-profit organization that buys private land and allows public recreating on it. Not all of their properties are for hunting, but the ones that are, they do a lottery system so you can put in, and if you get drawn, then you get to go hunt these properties. And what that does, it just mitigates hunting pressure. If you don't have your own land, you can get access to some pretty solid land that is not going to be covered up in as many hunters. So it's super local. We're in Waukesha County, in Wisconsin, so it's very close to us in terms of like proximity. We were considering giving to some of the very large not-for-profit entities and orgs out there, like National Deer Alliance or things like that. But they're so big that you just don't really feel the impact of what your dollars can do. Like our business name, Okayest Hunter, is listed on the donors list that goes out to mailing. We go to they have these like banquets. We get to go to that. We're invited. Like we're giving a nice chunk of money to them 2 times a year. One from Foam Fest, which is a 3D shooting event we do, and then we just take our collective annual nut, and 1% of that gets a check written to those guys. So we feel it has a demonstrable impact in the community in which we reside. And so even though we have a national kind of footprint and people listening from all other states, there's like minimum thresholds of giving you have to do with the bigger orgs. And when we were just brand new, like we don't have 5 grand, or we don't like what? Like, can we just give
Yeah.
you what we can? And they're like, no, it's got to be this minimum. And we thought that's kind of silly. Like, why wouldn't you just take what you can from everybody? I'm sure there's some sort of logic or reason to it, but at the time, it just kind of rubbed us the wrong way in 2020 when we were getting this thing off the ground. So yeah, we've just grown what we can give to the local WCLC here. And then we learned about that Knowles Now stewardship program thing that's on the chopping block, and that was kind of like ruffled our feathers a little bit. We don't tend to talk about some of that stuff too much, though it is important to us, and we have a responsibility with our platform. So when it makes sense, we can kind of dive in and do that. But there's so many issues at so many levels throughout the entire country at any given point in time that like it'd be a full-time job to talk about just those things. There probably should be a podcast in our industry that does just that. And it ain't gonna be us. Like we're really drinking a beer and having good laughs back at camp. So it's a little bit different.
No, I definitely I definitely feel like I've had some pretty heated episodes on our show, and not like confrontational with a guest or anything, just get fired up about some of this stuff. And you're right, it is frustrating, and there is a lot out there, and it's exhausting to try and keep up with it. And if I had a show that was dedicated to that, I would probably get pretty depressed if I'm being honest with you. It would be a challenge for sure. It's a crazy world out there, man. So I encourage everybody to pay attention to what's going on, especially to what's relevant to you, and to have a voice at the table when you can. So that's yeah, we could spend the rest of our time talking about conservation and that kind of stuff, but I won't
Yeah.
I won't do that to our listeners. So do one thing that you mentioned. You've talked to reference public land. You've referenced the hunting public. I've heard y'all mention this kind of in passing on y'all's show, and I know it's been said on ours as well. Probably every hunting podcast out there, if we're being real, talking about the hunting public. And since that platform came out, the sudden interest in public land, and everything that has followed that. Um, do you look at that as going a poor direction? You know,
I don't think so. I'm an optimist in general. I think more people coming into hunting is not a bad thing.
I agree.
I'm not a statistician, so I don't have the numbers as to how many people would have done that. Obviously, COVID kicked up the dust on a lot of folks coming into the outdoor category in droves, and then a lot of them have kind of like faded back out. It's like the new gym rush in January. Eventually, you get some people that stick. So like I find it interesting that some people get hung up on the fact of to how someone came into hunting. Like if someone came into hunting because they were influenced that way or they're trying to be an influencer, and then they stick around. Like, I don't care what got someone into hunting. They're here now. I don't care what tributary led them to our river of awesomeness. They're
Yeah.
here. And once they're here, they're brothers. Like, let's lock arms and like let's make sure that they learn things the best way possible and get some of the like we talked about, like a lot of the respect and authenticity, that they understand some of the things that we have as a culture, as the hunting community. But hunting public land is crowded. It's interesting because I got into this industry by building an app that helps solve an issue on public land. And back then, 10 to 15 years ago, it was very much like I worked really hard to get to this spot deep in public and no one else is here. Man, I don't know any spot deep enough where there's not other boot prints or some cell cam. Now you have a whole different narrative kind of happening around like the overlook spots because everyone's deep and like but now everyone's looking at all the overlook spots too because that's a topic. So I don't think there's anywhere you're gonna go. I live in between Milwaukee and Madison. They're two densely populated cities. Good frickin' luck finding anything that has no pressure. It's part of the game.
Yeah.
It is public land. It is meant for the public's use. So though it can be super frustrating, it's just you have to have the right expectation going into it. Marcus Aurelius said something like, every day when I wake up, and the book Meditations was this journal before, was ever meant to be published. He said something like, I'm going to run into idiots and ingrates and people that are disrespectful and mean. And, if I, because I know that that's going to happen, I'm going to run into those people. If I am surprised by that when it happens, then I'm implicating myself in their ugliness. Like I ought to have that awareness that that's going to happen, and therefore, with that proper expectation, I can just come at it knowing that that's going to be part of my damn day, and it's not going to ruin the day. I know when I go into public land, I'm going to run into other hunters or some sort of pressure, and if I let it piss me off to the degree that it degrades my hunt and implicates me in like ruining that experience for myself, that's on me.
Yeah.
That's not on someone else. So yes, do they bring a lot of attention to certain areas? Probably. And I'm certain they've done so here in Wisconsin. I don't literally know where. I'm not watching their show to see what tree they're hanging a stand in. Like, I would blame the other side of that coin too, the hunters that are the bad actors that are looking for those shortcuts. Go do your own homework. The
Yeah.
guys that are like ruining a spot because they were there, why aren't they being blamed? Why is the hunting public getting all of that burden put on their shoulders? Like, what about the people that are the jackasses doing that? So I think there's two sides to it, and I just live on the side of like I have a certain expectation when I go out, and much like if I have a friend, if a friend does something shitty, screws me over, whatever that is, I've just reshuffled my expectation of them, and now I treat them accordingly. Like that
Right.
friend may have been demoted to buddy, and I have no problem with them. Like I just now understand that that's how they operate, and I will act accordingly. Like it's just very simple for me to not waste energy on shit I can't control.
No, absolutely. No, you explained it very well, and I couldn't agree more. If I think everybody should be putting in their own work for their own investment into what they want to get out of it. And I mean, if anything, just for your own personal reasons, that makes it so much more of a rewarding experience, when you do actually put in the work and are able to go out there in the woods and be successful, whatever that success, that version of success is like for you, it's different for everybody, but that makes it all the more rewarding. And when you're trying to cut corners by piggybacking off of the work other people have done, yeah, I can see how there should be some perspective and some light shed on that, and it shouldn't just be on the content creator who is sharing their experiences on public land or whatever the case might be. And I think too, it's like there's a question floating out there as far as and I've talked about it, discussed it on the show over the years as technology changes, if that's helping or hurting the hunting industry. I think it's both. I think that you certainly could use it as too much of a crutch, whether that's cell cams, whether that's, Onyx type maps. I know there's different platforms that do that kind of stuff, but e-scouting and all that sort of thing. Um, and there's a time and place for all that. There's a use for all that. But I've learned firsthand the frustrations with relying too much on cell cams and knowing that that's only one lens out there in the woods. It's only you're seeing one angle of a all-encompassing 360-degree picture that's not shown. And with the e-scouting too, I think it's a valuable tool, especially for non-residents who might not have the time to travel to another state and put boots on the ground frequently prior to actually going out there and hunting. But there's something to be said too about woodsmanship and developing those skills by actually putting boots on the ground and scouting and that kind of stuff. So what are your thoughts as far as that line between the practicality and the hands-on of investing and preparing for your hunt versus, utilizing technology to the best of your ability?
I try to just live in reality. So like I subscribe to the same like argument that you're making that yeah, go put some boot leather to work, go put boots on the ground, go learn stuff on your own, get good at woodsmanship. Um, like there's no shortcut to these things. So you have to do that. Where I when I say I live in reality, I live in the reality in such that I don't have right now the opportunity of time on my side to be doing those things. So then I just have to recognize that, yeah, unless I luck my way into a 150, it's probably not that realistic. Now, there's some compounding things that I've learned as a hunter over the years. I have a little bit more wisdom on my side. So, like, it's maybe easier for me to get closer, but to really get it done, you got to be willing to work really, really hard. So I just try to keep my head in the reality of like, again, expectation versus reality. Am I expecting this huge deer? Probably not, because I have all these other things going on. So the reality for me is I'm probably going to shoot a two, maybe a 3-year-old deer, like or a bunch of does, because like I don't have like some of the guys that I know that are killing big deer consistently every single year. They're in the woods like all the time, year round, and they're collecting intel. They're learning. They're putting the effort in. They have more spots than I could possibly consider as like I have a plan B, maybe they have a plan A through Z. Like there's nothing they can't go throw a sit at to make it happen. And I think if you have enough at bats, you'll get good, you'll get
Yeah.
better, and you'll get one out of the park. I just don't have that many at bats, and that's just a reality I have to be aware of. Now, the other side of that, the tech side, the drones and the cell cams and the mapping tools, there's a democratization that's occurring in the hunting category. So it's lowering the bar for everybody to get like incrementally a lot better. Like any average to like rookie hunter with all of these tools can shortcut a ton of stuff. Like they can come up to the plate and they'll knock one out of the park right away in some cases because they've had so much technology at their, including YouTube and podcasts and everything else. Like the modern hunter today is far more equipped than the hunter of years past. However, when everyone has that same access, it still is hard. Um, so when something's democratized, like, and everyone has the same access, I think the ones that are good get better. Just like AI in business. Like, well, if everyone's using an LLM to write something, isn't it all going to be really good or the same? But the ones that know how to use it with expertise along their skill set are really good. They're
Yeah.
real dangerous. So the good get better, and then like there's a new like the bar just kind of raises a little bit. So you still have to like there's still not a lot of shortcuts, even though there's so many shortcuts. Because there's so many shortcuts, they all kind of like don't matter. Like if everyone's accountable, then no one's accountable. Or like I'm trying to think of another way to phrase this where it would make sense. I think people can pick up what I'm putting down here and
Yeah.
understand how markets work. But yeah.
I think there's also like you talked about the new hunter being more equipped than or at least it has the potential to be more equipped than ever before, with all the knowledge and information that is readily available out there. Um, and I think this is where just mentorship and why I think it's important to have a more experienced hunter in your life, whatever that looks like, whether it's a father figure, a parent, a friend, a buddy, whatever it is the having somebody like that to kind of help you along and also to humble you, I think is important because that's the other thing with all this information readily available. You could step into hunting year one or two and feel like you have done all of this work and that you have it dialed in and maybe even you got a taste of success early on because you were doing your due diligence and researching and trying to obtain all this information. But then as soon as you start having a hard run of it, which we've all been there where we where we have, unsuccessful seasons, unsuccessful sits, bad shots, all that kind of stuff. As soon as that happens, I feel like the fall is almost greater in that times, and it's easy for that person to really kind of become bitter a little bit. I've gone through that myself, even, over the years in different phases and stuff like that. So I think that it's important to have that another person in your life that can kind of help keep you grounded a little bit too, and help you understand too, like, hey man, like you had a great first season hunting, you killed a great buck your first year, your first hunt, whatever it is, but that's not how it's going to be every time. This is the reality of hunting, and here's what you need to do so you truly maintain an appreciation and a love for the outdoors and this thing that we call hunting that we all love and enjoy. So yeah, it's a wild world, man. It really is. So
Yeah, to be hunting, like hunt your own hunt, just like someone should race their own race, like run your own race, whatever. It's your hunt. Like it's no
yeah,
one else's. Don't try to compare to others, which is really hard to do or not do in the social media world we live in, where you're just seeing extremes of things, and extremes in some cases are like everyone shot a deer except for me, or it's like, well, yeah, but you're not seeing any of the struggles, man. You're just seeing the highlight reel.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's so tough. It's so tough. So yeah, in some ways, like talking about the old ways that hunting had been done with all the gatekeepers and TV shows, like we're seeing a bit of a similar version of that play out in terms of the fact that everyone's only showing the best stuff, by and large. It's not a blanket statement, because there's obviously outliers to that. Like we're one of them, I think. And there's a lot of just individual people that are putting out regular stuff all the time. Um, yeah, it's interesting. But I hunt for reasons. I'll always hunt. Like it doesn't matter if I'm doing this stuff or not. Like hunting's a part of who I am. And
Yeah.
it's something that I want to pass down as a legacy to my kids. And I've started to get them involved as much as I can, as much as they want to be. I'll never force it on them, but there seems to be interest there. So I'll fan the flames as it goes. And hopefully I got three new hunting buddies at my side as they grow up.
Yeah. No, that's well said for sure, and I hope so too. The one thing that you mentioned earlier, you talked about at bats, you talked about time in the woods and everything, and you know, people who are frequently successful, like you mentioned, they spend a lot of time out there. But that's one thing that, hunting shows, social media, whatever, it doesn't show is yeah, that dude might have killed a 150, 160-inch deer. But how many unsuccessful and frustrating sits did he have to get there? And kudos to him, he had the time to put it in. But that's the side that never gets seen. So that's something to keep in mind too. Every big name hunter has those unsuccessful sits too. We just might not always see them. So.
Yeah, for real.
So, in our final few minutes here, I want to steer the conversation a little bit more toward just specific hunting experiences and stuff for you. And I'll start off kind of tying it in slightly to our public land discussion or what we've said about it so far. Um, you talked about they're just having to have that mindset of expecting to be hunting pressured areas and that kind of stuff. So in a given season for you, what kind of things are you personally doing to prepare yourself for deer hunting?
Who prepares a strong word for me?
Same here.
Like the second I bring my hunting stuff up, my wife gives me the glare. She's like, "Is this already happening?" I'm like, and then it creates this weird animosity and like guilt, and so I got to like battle that.
Yep.
So I try to like wait to start preparing for as long as humanly possible before she starts to question what I'm doing with my life and our life. Um, but not much, man. Like I have. If I can get onto a few new properties every year, I use that hunting, like in season hunting knowledge a little bit to my advantage so I can bounce around because inevitably some spots going to be filled up or the wind's not going to work right. The less familiarity I have with a property, the more likely I'll be doing afternoon sits so I can see my way in. Otherwise, if I'm going in dark in the morning, I have literally no idea what I'm getting into half the time.
Oh yeah.
Um, because I do like to hunt new properties. Now, if I have done some scouting, I have some familiarity. Morning hunts tend to be really a great outcome for me. Um, so if I can do those, fantastic. What I have a hard time with is calling it. Like I'd want to just stay all day, and I have a hard time with like my wife needs me back for something, or work needs me, or my kid, whatever that is, like a sporting thing or something. I would have a hard time being like, well, I got to be out by 11. I just, I'm like, well, that's the moment the deer's going to show up. Watch, like I don't want to get down now. If I do an evening hunt, I'm not staying past dark. Like, you know what I mean? Like I hunt till last light, I climb down, I get out in the dark and I go home. Like it's like kind of a set time. So it feels better for everybody from an expectation standpoint. Mitigating pressure for me, I took some lessons from Infault a long time ago. I use water a lot to my advantage, whether that's bringing in waders and crossing or kayaking or canoeing into spots. You're still going to have people that are doing that stuff. It's gained a lot of popularity, but there's just still fewer masses doing that. So like, even if I'm running into people, they're freaking hardcore people. But there's less of them than just the people that are walking out from a trailhead and hitting the water and like going, I'm not dealing with that. Like I'm not getting my socks, my pants, my boxers wet, or I'm not stripping down and crossing that. Um, that's a big, big one for me. So I'm always looking for water and how can I leverage water and to my advantage. And it's a pain in the ass, man. I hunted some pretty ridiculous terrain last season where I was just, I think one day I got up at 2:30 in the morning. I got to the property at 4. I'm walking in the pitch black dark, crossing this probably where like a lot of duck hunters would be hunting. Zero deer hunters. There was no other hunter sign at all. And I'm getting back to this stuff, and it's just like, this sucks. Like this is not easy. Finally get across. I take the waders off. I walk the rest of the way in, throw this nasty crap, and um, the canoe ride stuff. I like that probably more because it's peaceful. Canoeing into spots like the scenery is great. The trek in's a lot easier. I can just paddle, no big deal. But then you got to deal with the rigmarole of like I'm loading up a canoe and I'm doing all this extra stuff. It's like just
Yeah.
more added steps than just going right out. But it does put you in a position that I've seen way more deer than I've ever seen before just by being near or by water in a way that is separating me from other hunters. And I think the deer get pushed to those spots. They don't care about water. They'll cross anything. I've seen
Yeah.
deer swim. The biggest deer I ever killed, I watched him swim across the river before I shot him. It was awesome. So it was like probably one of the coolest things I had witnessed because he like shook it all off when he got out. It was freezing cold. I was like, what did I just witness? Like, this is amazing.
Wow.
So
Was it during the rut or was he just
it
traveling
was.
through? Yeah.
During the rut, yeah, there's another buck. I never saw the second deer, but I heard all the grunting and crashing. The doe finally got chased out of this thicket. That buck never emerged. I don't know if he was young or old. I have no idea. Um, and I watched a buck across the river, like hear this and just lock into this situation that's happening. And once that doe emerged and he got a visual of her, he committed and just swam right across. And then he grunted the other buck away. So I'm assuming he was the dominant guy. Came out, rubbed a tree, and I shot him when he was rubbing. It was like textbook. It was one of my favorite hunts.
That's awesome. How big was he? Not
I
not
think,
that that matters. I'm just
yeah, no, it's
purely
the biggest deer I ever
curious.
got. I think we just kind of back on napkined it in the podcast studio with Greg and Derek one night drinking beers, telling the story. I think was like right around 136 or something like that.
Awesome, man.
Um, Super wide though. He was almost 20 inches wide, which is what was really cool
Wow.
about him. Yeah.
And that's on public,
That was a sliver of private. I
Slither
got
private.
permission from an old coworker. He's like, "Yeah, yeah, my uncle's gonna come there tomorrow. You can hunt it this day if you want." I was like, "Yeah, I'd like to. I don't know. I'm burned out on public right now. If you're gonna, it was like, I think it's 16 acres or something, maybe less. I'd have to check. It was a small piece, and so like,
Nice.
no pressure on that property. The river going right through it. I was like, this is perfect, and it worked out. It was cool.
That's awesome, man. So do you hunt more permission pieces or public, would you say?
Definitely more public.
More
Yeah.
public.
I've yeah, I've only killed that deer on private, and then I killed one on my uncle's lease last year. I don't get invited out too much. Not like it's a bad thing. I just don't want to overstep my, it's his lease. Like I'm not
Yeah.
trying to. But my dad hunts there, and my dad's like, "Hey, Gary said you can come out and hunt the lease." I was like, "Sweet." He's got pre-hung sets. Like climbed up a ladder, sat down. It was awesome. I didn't have to like walk through water. It was fantastic. And it was like perfect rut day. And there's literally bucks chasing does all over the place. I'd seen like 4 bucks that day. And eventually a hot doe came in. This dude is like totally rapey with her, like just trying to push her around. getting upset. He lost track of her, and then he got all frantic trying to pick up her scent again. And I grunted, and it took like a second, and he like bull rushed towards me, like thinking I was gonna steal his girl. I think he was ready to like
Oh,
get the
dang.
heck out of here. And it happened so fast. I've never successfully grunted in a deer before in my life. So I was just like, I'm gonna try this, and meh. And all of a sudden he like looked, and then boom, sprinted down this hill right at me, and I was like, oh my God, he's here, and I shot him at like 5 yards. Um,
Wow.
it was nuts. He died right under my tree. I got the femoral artery because he didn't stop when I tried to stop him. He just kept moving. So that by the time the arrow released and like, people are probably not thrilled with that shot, but like they weren't in my shoes with the at full draw. Um,
It's
and
part of it, man. Yeah.
he died in seconds, man. It was like a bloodbath. But I was like, oh crap. It was not the shot I wanted to take because he didn't freaking stop and I let it rip anyways. I thought it was gonna go where I put it, and it was a couple inches further back than I wanted it to be, but it was exciting for sure. My dad got a buck that same day on the same property later in the afternoon. It was cool.
I don't know. I feel like I've grunted bucks into the general area, but I don't feel like I've ever like grunted one right there to exactly where I'm gonna shoot. I've had some success turning them with a snort wheeze over the years. That's one of my favorite things. Like I don't use a snort wheeze unless I actually have eyes on the deer. But just being able to make that sound yourself with your own mouth and just watch that big deer stop and turn and react, and you just changed the whole course of his path. Man, it is so cool. It's definitely one of my favorite things to try. And I've also, don't get me wrong, I've also had deer that completely ignored it. Like, nah, not interested. I'm gonna keep walking. Or you hit them with two or three, and by the second or third one, they're like, all right, I'll see what's going on." So it's fun hunting during the rut and getting to play
Thanks.
that
Yeah.
game and try to actually be vocal and have a dialogue with these deer and influence their behavior. It's wild, man. It's certainly one of my favorite times as a bow hunter.
Yeah. Yeah. Likewise. It's just a special time to be out in the woods and see nature on full display in the chaotic manner in which they operate during that time frame. It's awesome.
Yeah, pretty pretty crazy. Bow or gun? What's your preference?
Bow these days for sure. I mean, I
Yeah,
love my boomstick, and I just think it's a different book on the same subject. It's not
yeah.
like, yeah, that's all. Just a different book. I enjoy the camaraderie of gun hunting here in Wisconsin. We have like 600,000 people call it the Blaze Orange Army, and like it's a whole different vibe. Like it's a 9 day gun season. You go out, you do what you can when the deer are moving because there's so much pressure everywhere that like pressure actually probably works in your favor. Versus bow, you're like a ninja. You're not as bulked up in this heavy gear. It's earlier in the season. Um, it's very intimate, so I appreciate the bow hunting aspect a ton.
What kind of setup you running?
I got a bear. I've been running bear bows for a very long time. My first bear bow was a Bear Empire single cam. Then I got one of the Legacy. I can't remember the name of that one. I feel like it was named Legacy or something. Last year I was shooting the dude, middle of the day, brain just fogging up on me.
I put you on the spot. Sorry.
I can see the name of the bow on the riser. Um, what the hell's wrong with my mind? I can't think of it. It's in every piece of freaking content I put out. The dude it keeps getting in my tongue and stopping. I got it, but I can't get it. And then I'm trying a different one this year. So there, and then I was last year I was using the dialed sight, which I really kind of enjoyed a single pin. I think they got some newer stuff that I'm curious about because it's like a single pin, but it has three dots on the single pin. So you're getting like a little bit of the best of both worlds, I think, with that.
That's what I'm running. I have a three pin dial that's vertically stacked.
Yeah,
So
yeah, which I think is cool because yeah, in the field, like deer closes distance and you're like, whoa, shoot, like that's probably the other thing with that setup where I shot that deer this last year because I was probably set for 15 or 20 yards and then he was at 5. So I don't know, that whole situation was nuts. Yeah. So my setup's like I'm not a gear guy by any stretch. I go to the archery shop, they help me tune things, and I like get confident with what I have, and like that's it. I barely know like poundage. I know that it's comfortable for me to pull back. I know that I
Yeah.
like the sight that I'm looking through. I know that the arrows can do the damage that I need at the FOC that it's set up at, blah 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 blah. But I'm not the tinkering gear kind of guy. It's just
Yeah.
not my.
I kind of am, which is why I ask. I ask a lot of my archery hunting guests kind of what they're running, just because I'm purely curious and that kind of stuff. I like to know what people are shooting. But I worked in the before I was a fireman, I worked in a bow shop. So I kind of got a little taste of the archery world and learned how to work on my own stuff and everything from there. And um, so I do like to tinker from time to time. The dialed sights, I switched to that last year. I've been very impressed with that product. It's been
Yeah, it's like what Taylor's
very
doing too. He's a workhorse. He's a smart guy. I've hung out a handful of times over the years, and um, it's just cool to support someone that like personally. Like it's a great
yeah.
product.
Yeah, they've done a great job with it for sure. So, well, man, I know we're getting to our time here. I got a couple of questions I ask every guest that I sit down with for the first time at least. And this first one we might have already covered it because you said it was one of your favorite hunts, but normally I ask people to tell us about one of your most memorable hunting experiences to date.
I mean, I don't know that anyone stands out more than others. I remember like my first boning experience in Northwoods. I botched every aspect of it. I remember that one for those reasons. The one last year was really strong. Like it was great because my dad was there. It all worked out. It was exciting. I've never grunted one in. The one with the buck crossing river, I had to cross the river to retrieve him, so I had to get down my skivvies and go get him. It was
Oh,
freezing.
oh,
But then my dad was there. He stopped by because he was hunting nearby, and he like I'm like, I found it. He's over on the other side. And it was very much like the scene from Talladega Nights. Like, how do you get to his underwear so quick? Like, what even happened? All of a sudden, my
he's
dad's
just
in
turning
this
around and
tiny
he's
hut.
in his
He's like there. I was
underwear.
like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I gotta get over there and see this with you right now. Like, I was gonna bring it over the river to you, Dad. He's like, no, 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 I'm coming over. So we're both in our underwear looking at this deer's photos of it. Like, it's
That's
just,
awesome.
we're like, what the hell's going on deer hunting? Why are you guys in your underwear?
That's
Like anyone
awesome.
that's not a hunter, they're like, what the hell? Yeah, it's funny.
These rednecks out here hunting deer any way they can.
That one stands out. I mean, it was cold, it was cool, it was big deer for me. It was a testament to the fact that I put the pieces of the puzzle together the right way, and it actually
Yeah,
worked out. So a lot of good confidence building one for me for sure.
that's awesome. What about your bucket list? What's a hunt or hunts on the list that you really want to go on if that you consider once in a lifetime if you have the opportunity?
Man, I got a lot of invites throughout the country, so I don't know where I'll end up, but September elk hunt is high on that. But all three of my kids were born in September, so until they're old enough to like come with me or we vacation out there in some way, shape, or form, I bring my whole family. Me leaving them on their birthdays is a non-negotiable. Like
Yeah,
I will not miss their birthdays. So for now, like that one sits pretty high on the list, but it's gonna have to work itself out in a different season of life.
yeah. No, that's an awesome one for sure. I've been on one elk hunt. Incredible experience. We as a hunting party were successful. Uh, my tag did not get filled, which is okay. And I had to explain that to my wife that hey, it's not just about like we as a group were able to pull this off, a
Yeah.
DIY thing. Just because I didn't fill my tag, it's okay. And that it taught me some valuable lessons too. That hey, it's not like deer hunting down here in Texas or wherever our deer hunters might be coming from listening to this, but it taught me a lot more about the camaraderie side of hunting because I'm used to being in a tree stand by myself. But when you're out there with three or four dudes trying to get it done on a mountainside and somebody in that group is able to get it done, that's
You
pretty
can feel
awesome. So it's
that.
incredible.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the camaraderie piece. Like, if I don't feel my tag, I just want you to feel yours. It's just as good. It's like giving a gift on Christmas. It's better to give than to receive half the time.
Yeah,
So cool.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, man, as we conclude, tell our listeners where they can find you guys and follow along if they don't already.
Yeah, if you're not, we'd love to have you following along and appreciate anybody that does. It's just okayesthunter.com, Okayest hunter.com, and you can pick your path from there. That's the center point. whether you find another show on our network or follow our socials or our YouTube, that's up to you. But if you want to go there, that's probably a good starting point.
Awesome. Well, man, anything that we missed, anything you want to add? I probably should have asked that before. I'm thinking about it. I should have asked that before I asked you to plug your shows, but anything that we've missed or anything you want to share with our listeners before we conclude?
No, man, we're just trying to figure this thing out as it continues to go. It's part-time for us, so it's not our full-time gig.
Yep.
We got a new studio space we just got into recently, so we're kind of working on getting that built out. We're building a seminar space. We're rebuilding our podcast studio there. Big goal this year is to get as many people in studio as we can versus the virtual stuff. I have nothing against virtual, but I just think the output of in-person has got some magic to it that we lack virtually. And yeah, that's the big thing for us right now. So if anyone's in Wisconsin, like give us a shout because we're local guys here. And if you are in this area, you can come by and see our spot.
That's awesome. Well, good stuff, man. I appreciate you taking the time this afternoon on Fall Obsession Podcast, joining us and our listeners and just chatting it up for a while. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet, man. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, man. It was a good conversation. But for our listeners, we're going to wrap this one up. Thank y'all for tuning in. Be sure you guys go follow Eric and the guys over at Okayest Hunter. See everything that they have going on over there. Listen to the show. We'll wrap this one up. I'll be back with you guys again next week. We'll catch you then.